Welcome, filmmakers, fans, and friends to Indie Cinema Showcase. I'm your host, John Theisen. Each episode, my cinephile friend Tim Anderson and I will be here to bring you the best and brightest in local independent cinema.
Each show will highlight a specific aspect of independent filmmaking, be that an actual genre, the role of key crew members, or various outlets or resources for filmmakers to utilize in their productions.
We will then discuss the ins and outs of these topics with our industry guests, while also spotlighting some Florida-made films that are great examples of the subject matter.
Today's show topic will be focused on the role of the independent film director and how they're able to bring their unique visions to life on a shoestring budget. This episode will be spotlighting one specific local filmmaker named Banks Helfrich, who's been forging his way in this community for many, many years.
All right, gang, let's get things rolling with a duo of Banks' zany and thought-provoking short films. These two films are entitled The Blower and Stuck. We hope you enjoy.
Once again, that was The Blower and Stuck, directed by Banks Helfrich. Now, each show we like to give our own thoughts from the popcorn gallery and offer our feedback on the films we showcase so we can give you guys something to argue about at home. Now, John, what'd you think of Banks?
Well, I think Banks is a great filmmaker, and you can see kind of the culmination of his work, you know, through the progressions. The Blower obviously was shot a few years earlier than Stuck. Starting with The Blower, I mean, there's a lot of physical comedy there. You know, obviously a very simple idea, but the way he shot it, a lot of really unique angles, and you see that same type of thing, a lot of the same type of camera work in Stuck as well. But obviously, if people at home don't know, Banks was the principal actor in The Blower. He was The Blower. And then in Stuck, he has a local actor and director, Fred Zara, in the film as well. But I think, you know, Banks has a great way of using that comedy and mixing it with kind of deep, thought-provoking, you know, deeper subject matter. So I do like Banks's films, and I'm glad that he makes them short, which we always like. Oh,
I love any filmmaker who can get their thing done in like under 5 minutes. Dude, you're like golden in my book. But the thing I liked about, and I want to focus on Stuck, The Blower, I'm sorry, more than Stuck, because I had a couple of issues with Stuck. The thing I liked about The Blower, and you touched on it, is the slapstick comedy. It's sort of the son of Keaton, son of Chaplin, situational comedy. And you're right about the angles. I mean, Banks definitely knows how to make a movie. I mean, it's cut together beautifully. But the idea of this sort of childlike wonderment that the character has at unstrapping this leaf blower and then turning his, you know, bodysuit hazmat protection gear into the actual blower with this one arm and blowing those leaves away at the end. It's this beautiful payoff, and it's a happy film. It's like a joyful film. You sort of walk away from it in a very like, you know, sort of manner. Now with the Stuck, my issue is that I felt that the film, even at like 4.5 minutes, was a bit too long. It felt one note and like one thing that they just kind of kept going over and over again. But you pointed something out to me that I didn't even recognize in the film, and that actually added a great dimension to the film.
Well, I think Banks' idea was to delve a little deeper, and if you see the credits roll, especially when Fred is walking at the end with all the trash on him, his credit is the earth. And so instead of him just being a character, a single person who's wasting all this, you know, trash and things, it actually becomes a bigger kind of social commentary on the pollution, all the waste that we have on a daily basis. I mean, you see in the film, Fred's just eating a bowl of cereal and all the things he has to throw away, and I think that goes back to Banks's, you know, love of the earth, and you know, kind of like I said, taking it back a step and always having a little bit deeper subject matter in his films, which I think is a relieving process, because some people are such one note, and Banks might focus on one subject for 4 minutes and really drive that point home, but still there's multiple layers, and that's great for filmmakers.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly the point. To me, the movie felt like it was one note, and then when I realized later from you what was actually going on to it, it brought the movie to a completely other level. And I look at it again and I think, wow, you know, I mean, I definitely get where he's going. Now, I still think he could have trimmed it by 45 seconds to maybe even a minute.
And we're going to have Banks on in a few minutes, so we'll obviously talk to him about his techniques and some of his directorial styles and stuff.
For sure.
To learn more about the films you just saw, or to see what other projects Banks is working on, visit his website at whoisbankshelfrich.com. When we come back from the break, we'll be talking with the man himself, local award-winning director Banks Helfrich. Welcome back. Since on ICS we want to do more than just show fancy moving pictures to our audiences, on this episode's Industry Insight segment, we're very excited to have with us local film director and all-around creative guy, Banks Helfrich. Thanks for being with us, Banks.
Hey, John. Tim.
Banks, now to get things started, how did you get your start in filmmaking?
Oh, back in 1994, I saw a movie, Brothers McMullen.
Okay.
Edward Burns' first film. And he did a film on like $25,000. And I thought, if he could do it, maybe I could try it.
Sure.
Well, that was like, 15, 16 years ago. So since then, I mean, that was kind of like the catalyst. That was like the spark that got me going, okay, he can do it. And I was kind of in the back of my mind always mulled over, maybe I can try it, or maybe I'll give it a chance. And then that led to my first feature, which took about 7 years.
Okay.
I was wondering, I was going to say, how long did it take between the spark and the actual, the flame?
Well, yeah.
See, now what I'm hearing, though, is you saw yourself as a young, better-looking Edward Burns. Is that really what you thought?
Oh, no. Very far from that.
Now, Banks, we just actually saw, the audience at home saw The Blower and Stuck, two of your short films. You're kind of known for doing a lot of either humor in your films or a lot of deep subject matter. How do you, as a director, kind of walk the line between the two of those?
I kind of do the shotgun approach. If it's not funny, I want them to think, and if it doesn't make them think, I want it to be funny.
Okay.
If I throw everything out there, maybe something will stick.
Okay.
And if I could do both, I mean, that's the ultimate. That's nirvana.
Who do you kind of cite as your influences? Because when I look at something like The Blower, it seems very Chaplin, Keaton-esque,
Well, actually, Woody Allen.
Oh, okay, great.
Think of Bananas. Think of Sleeper.
Sure.
I also have an influence of the Marx Brothers.
Okay.
Harpo Marx.
You kind of look like one of the Marx Brothers, I have to say.
Oh,
is that what you're going for? I know it's Einstein meets Marx Brothers. I think that's what it is.
Zeppo. I'm going for Zeppo.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Well, Banks, we're going to show your trailer in a little bit for your feature films, but you've had shorts and features under your belt, since you've started making film. What's the hardest thing, or what's the difference you feel between the two, other than the length, obviously?
Well, a feature, if you can keep someone interested in your film for 80 minutes, or I'm going for like 85, 90 minutes. Okay. That's much more difficult than keeping them interested for 4 minutes or 6 minutes. Yeah. Usually you can put like 6 or 7 gags together and string it along, and it's okay. With a feature, you have to have, for me at least, many different stories going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, do you find yourself doing a lot more pre-production, obviously, for the features, especially when you have to really compellingly work those stories in? Because as I find, if one of those 3 stories don't work, a lot of times the feature doesn't work. So you have to kind of make all 3 of them, or however many storylines you're going.
Well, John, as you know, it starts with the writing. You have to come up with something that's interesting, that you can actually put on print. And with me, I have through the years of doing my films, my shorts, my features, I have a group of people that I've grown in people.
That's great.
And experiences. So I'll pick up a producer, and she does all my pre-production. Nice. And then my second or third feature, I picked up another producer, and I picked up a sound guy that does audio, and he does makeup.
Sure.
So as I grow in my films, I grow in people.
Well, I'm sure things get a lot more efficient that way too, if you're working with the same groups of people.
It is like 90% pre-production.
Yeah.
I shoot on a very tight, like 6 days, 5 days for a feature.
Great.
And it takes 4 months of pre-production to shoot that.
Yeah, to get ready for it.
Well,
that's actually, since we're about to show the trailer for Of Life, and I think that's kind of an interesting movie, because I've seen the sort of the short film version of it, and I've seen the feature trailer. So instead of having sort of 3 divergent storylines that you're interconnecting, you essentially have 3 storylines that you've. Can you explain? Maybe explain to our audience a little bit about what makes the Of Life so different than your standard film? Because what you've done is very, very unique.
That was a nice way of putting it.
All right. I usually get a glazed donut look when I tell people what this is about. I take time, which is linear, which we look at time linearly, and I take it and I put it vertically. So we have to look at time up and down. So you are born and you die at the same time. You get married and you have kids at the same time. So the way the story is, I've kind of interconnected these bubbles of time, let's say moments of time. I've interconnected them in a storyline where this one main character ends up meeting himself a few times in his life.
Yeah. I mean, it might sound complex to our audience, but I've actually seen the feature, and you did a hell of a job, Banks. And once again, juxtapositioning the humor and this film is very, very deep, existential. But I think you sell it very well. And from the camera work and what you do, where they're living in the same household and have a lot of those things, that overlap. Yeah. It starts to really weave itself into an amazing story, and I think it's the best thing you've done so far, so congratulations on that. Banks, you alluded to you being in front of the camera. Speak on that for a minute, because a lot of your short films and your features, you are the principal actor and also the man creatively behind the camera. How do you work that out, or is it a tough project, or is it tough? I mean, obviously you keep signing yourself up for it, so obviously you're a glutton for punishment. But how do you deal with that, or how is that? What kind of hurdles do you have to overcome with that?
I am the cheapest guy on the set.
He works for free, so
It's true.
So I have to put myself in the films because, and it's usually a lead part because either I have to pay a guy 5 or 6 days, an actor 5 or 6 days, or I don't have to pay him and I can just learn the parts. So that is the main reason why I'm the one that's in front of the camera. I do enjoy it. It's the most challenging thing in what I do. Writing has become just this great thing, this great spark, this great passion. Editing has also become it, although I'm going to leave that with somebody else later on.
Yeah.
But performing is tough. I mean, I kind of have an idea when I'm writing it what I'm looking for.
Yeah, as the writer of the thing, you kind of have to know in your head how your character is going to say these lines. You have the gist of the performance.
Well, and they're very Banks-esque character. I mean, I don't know if you write with yourself in mind, but the lead characters are normally very zany characters that you kind of complement, I think, very well. So me personally, knowing you, couldn't really see anybody else in a lot of those roles,
Well, I do. I do write what I know, and that's about the extent of my writing. It's very difficult to write like 5 or 6 characters and not have a little bit of yourself in each one of them, and I do.
You have to.
Well, Banks, thanks so much for being with us today. We appreciate having you on as a guest, and stick around for the Awe of Life, the trailer. But it's been a whole Banks Helfrich, ICS episode today. So thanks so much for coming, Banks.
I'm very excited. Thank you.
Tim.
To keep in touch with Banks and his latest projects, visit his website, whoisbankshelfrich.com.
As Banks heads back to his creative asylum, we're going to take a look at the trailer for his latest feature film. The film is entitled The Awe of Life, and it's this episode's feature.
Now, since we're not here just to listen to ourselves talk, we're going to try to impart some wisdom with our Fun Facts segment presented by greenroomorlando.com.
These facts are sent to us from the wild world of the internet. This episode's question is from Marie. Dear ICS, I just graduated from film school and I'm in the process of casting for my next film. I no longer have the school's resources and facilities to hold my casting call, and I don't want strangers coming to my home. What other avenues can you suggest that I look into? John, you want to start this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, and you know, obviously it's a female asking it, but I think everybody has to deal with that issue of not inviting people to their homes. I think that's a big mistake.
You don't think random actors just showing up at your house?
Well, no, I mean, I think when you're doing it with your friends, you know, and you're doing this thing, but if you're actually going to hold a professional casting, it doesn't scream professionalism to have somebody to your house. And also, you know, be it a female inviting people to their house, you don't know who's going to show up, and it's dangerous. And conversely, being a male director, I've had to invite, when I was starting out, female actresses to my house, and it's just very uncomfortable.
It's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah, it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. So what I would say is, you know, look to your local community centers. Look to, I mean, if you have a movie theater, but you know, a lot of these places are going to charge you. You know, the higher up on the spectrum of fancy places you get, but there's a lot of empty church halls, or you know, even at my home, you know, my community center, we have a community center right up the street from my house, so I'm not having it at my house, but I can pay my community center $100 to have it there, and just having it in the front of my community makes it a little bit more professional, and you're inviting people to not make, bottom line is acting and the casting process is uncomfortable for a lot of actors anyway. You don't want to make that process any more uncomfortable for the people showing up. You want them to give you their best work.
And you've got out of film school, Marie, so try to understand for a second that film school, if you're still in the area, could still be a resource to allow you to do casting there. I mean, for example, here in Orlando, Full Sail Center for the Recording Arts will allow anyone, including a non-student, to hold casting sessions at their location. But it's absolutely better than bringing somebody to your house.
Sure.
If you want to be a part of our Fun Facts segment, you can submit your questions by visiting the ICS link on greenroomorlando.com. If you ask us a question we don't know the answer to, we'll Google it. Now, it's time for my favorite segment of the show, Films to See Before You Die.
Are you looking for something a bit off the beaten track to check out late at night? Well, each episode, Tim and I pick a couple DVDs that might have slipped past your radar, but films that we think you absolutely need to feast your eyes on. So, Tim, what do you have for us this episode?
Well, in honor of Banks' sort of modern avant-garde take on cinema, I decided to go backwards in time and do something that I, love to do, which is to really pull out an obscure title for you filmmakers out there to focus in on. So what I have chosen today is the Experimental Films collection of Myra Deren. Now, Myra Deren was a filmmaker in the 1930s and 40s, and up until her death in 1961. She died at the age of 44. She made very few movies over that time frame, but essentially she took this love and passion for the arts and the arts community that she had in New York City and started to create experimental films using in-camera trickery, very weird, very bizarre stuff, but fabulous, absolutely captivating. And the fact of the matter is, these movies have no dialogue whatsoever.
A lot that they can learn from.
You can learn, you can learn so much about filmmaking technique and how to tell a story without words. Even a story that is completely surreal. She is the queen. She is the mother of American avant-garde cinema. And you deserve to see this as filmmakers before you die. Must see.
Well, my film is a film I also think you should see before you die, and it also plays into Banks. The tagline is "Think Kill Bill meets Looney Tunes," and I think that's a pretty good description. It's Stephen Chow's Kung Fu Hustle. And I picked this because, as we were talking with Banks, Banks is a lot of times in front and behind the camera.
Absolutely.
Stephen Chow is always the main actor in his films, and he's also a director. Amazing Asian director. This film is a really great culmination of so many things. I mean, it's an homage to a million things. It has the Buster Keaton-esque thing. It has the Looney Tunes or witty writing of Quentin Tarantino and some of the dark comedy. But then it also has the films that I like, the kind of Hong Kong swordplay films, the wire work, all this type of stuff, all crammed into one film. Stephen Chow also directed Shaolin Soccer and a lot of other films. And most of them, if not all of them, he stars in. I think he's the only guy doing such a juxtaposition of all these different things in one, and that's why I think Kung Fu Hustle you need to see before you die.
Absolutely.
And speaking of Looney Tunes, That's all, folks. We want to thank all of you out there in TV land for joining us. We also want to thank Banks Helfrich for dropping by to share his films and insights with us, as well as always as our segment sponsors.
We hope you learned something new, saw something you loved, or got inspired to get off your couch and go make a movie of your own. Maybe it'll be good enough for us to show on the next Indie Cinema Showcase.
But until then, we say to all you current and upcoming filmmakers, peace, love, and positive reviews. Until next time.